Hello friends, and welcome to the tutorial. Today we are going to be drawing a witch using the Picasso Tab and Sketchbook Pro. I always start out with a pencil sketch, take a photo of the sketch using the tablet's camera, and then import that photo into Sketchbook Pro. I then put the layer opacity down, and now I have a starting point. You can of course start out in the app with a blank canvas. It's up to you however you like working. Now let's start drawing our witch. To start the sketch, I began by drawing a rough face guideline in a red pencil. This consists of a circle, a line down the centre. This line is the guide for the nose and the lips, and then another line through the middle of the circle for the eyes. In this drawing, her hat covers up her eyes, so it's not necessary to draw in all of the eyed guidelines. But when I'm drawing faces, I always start out with this basic set of guidelines, as it makes placing the hat and the other facial features much easier. To draw in the main sketch, I am swapping to a dark blue pencil, and I started out sketching the lower rim of her hat and then drew in the sides of her face and her chin, anchoring those lines to the side of my red guidelines for the face. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to catch up. For the outlines, I started by turning the opacity of the sketch down and then locking down that layer. From there I created a new layer and chose a dark brown colour for the lines. I picked the fountain pen tool and I played around with the settings for a bit to create greater pressure sensitivity in the lines. I did this by tapping on the fountain pen button and then adjusting the size of the pen and the pressure sensitivity under the Advanced Settings tab in the little pop-up menu that comes up when you click the fountain pen. When using a pen or a brush that has a higher sensitivity setting, you can create lots of variation in your line art and create a different look to using a simple uniform line weight. Once I had the settings the way I wanted them, I began tracing my lines. I like to zoom in and out when I am working, and I turned on the predictive stroke tool. You can find this in the top menu area, and this helps to smooth out all of the lines. Now, moving on to the colouring process. I started by duplicating the outline layer and locking the top outline layer in place. I will be working in the bottom outline layer for the next steps. Using the paint bucket tool, I picked the colours that I wanted and then I bucketed in the different sections. When choosing colours, I find that a limited colour palette often works best. So just picking 2 or 3 main colours, this can help the finished illustration to feel really cohesive. I chose a variety of dark reds for her hat and clothes and a dark brown for her hair. These colours will be complemented later on with a light purple background. After the main colours were in, I created a new layer and then added in some shadows and highlights. I did these in a simple block style, picking a darker colour for the shadow lines and a lighter one for the highlights, and just adding in lines where I wanted them. I particularly added in these lines under the chin, around her neck, under the brim of her hat, adding highlights around her chin and on the collar of her jacket. The final stage of the colouring process is adding in some pattern details to her clothes. This is of course optional. I felt that she needed some extra details, so I drew in some spiders in dark brown into her jacket. I just drew a simple circle and added on a few legs. I also drew in a simple triangle or mountain shaped pattern into her hat as well, trying to follow the curve of the hat as I drew them in, and then I added in a few red stripes as well. Let's now move on to the background. I created a new layer, and using the shape tool I placed a light purple rectangle behind her, and then using the line shape tool I just drew in some white lines crisscrossing on top of the purple rectangle. I then drew a white outline all around the witch, just to make sure that she stood out from the background, and then finally added in 3 pink circles. I hope you enjoyed drawing the witch today. Thank you for watching.